That rain will continue to push its way north and eastwards through the evening and overnight, and it's through the early hours of Monday morning that those winds really start to pick up. Gusts of 60 to 75 miles an hour across those western coasts, perhaps as high as 90 across parts of Scotland. It will be a very mild night as well, particularly compared to what we've seen recently, maybe 8 or 9 degrees across the southeast. A very windy start to the day on Monday, though. Those winds will ease a touch through the early hours of the morning, but still remaining very blustery across the UK into Monday afternoon. Showers quite widely pushing in from the west into Monday afternoon as well, perhaps turning wintry across the very high ground of Scotland. There will be some sunshine across the very far southeast. Temperatures here maybe 10 or 11 degrees, and elsewhere around the mid-single figures. Tuesday will start a little bit drier for some, particularly along eastern parts of England, but that doesn't last very long. This next system pushing in from the west as we go through Tuesday afternoon, bringing some further heavy rain, particularly to western parts of Scotland, northwest England and into Wales as well, and some strong winds associated with that. Something a little drier on Wednesday, but further wet and windy weather later in the week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Hello, good evening from the GB Newsroom. I'm Tamsin Roberts with the top stories. Thousands of households are without power tonight as Storm Isha sweeps across the UK. Winds of up to 90 miles per hour have hit Wales, with forecasters warning of danger to life in some areas of Britain. The Met Office says a tornado could hit Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland and Northern England, and that tornado watch zones have been issued. Network Rail has suspended its services and ScotRail has cancelled its Monday morning rush hour services. Flights have also been disrupted with some cancellations. GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie has this update.
Storm Isha has most definitely made landfall in Northern Ireland. The small town of Portstewart is now being battered by very high winds. There has been power outages in County Down and fallen trees in Hollywood. This storm is only going to get worse as the night goes on.
Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the US presidential race and endorsed Donald Trump. His surprise video announcement comes ahead of this week's New Hampshire Republican primary, where Mr DeSantis was polling in the single digits. His departure leaves Nikki Haley as Mr Trump's only significant rival. Detectives investigating the deaths of 4 people in Norwich on Friday say 2 adults died of stab wounds. The man and woman, along with 2 young children, were found dead in a house in Cossey. Post-mortem examinations for 2 girls will be carried out on Wednesday. Norfolk Police has referred itself to the independent watchdog after failing to respond to a 999 call from the home where the bodies were found. A 17-year-old boy who was stabbed to death in Birmingham city centre on Saturday has been named. West Midlands Police say officers were called to Victoria Square after Mohammed Hassam Ali was found seriously injured. He was rushed to hospital but later died. Anyone who may have taken pictures in the area around the river statue on Saturday afternoon is being urged to contact police. The Duchess of York has been diagnosed with skin cancer just months after being treated for breast cancer. The diagnosis comes after she had several moles removed, with one of those identified as being cancerous. A spokesman for Sarah, Duchess of York, confirmed she has been diagnosed with malignant melanoma. She's said to be undergoing further investigations to ensure it's been caught early. The Duchess is said to be in good spirits, despite the fact another cancer diagnosis so soon after the last one has been what they call distressing. This is GB News across the UK, on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker. Just say play GB News. Now, it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, the show where we deploy comedians to review the next day's newspapers. I'm Stephen Allen, joined by 2 very opposite comedians. One who the internet rudely implies she's the token woman. It's Cressida Wetton. And one that the internet says isn't the full ticket. It's Lewis Schaefer. How have you both been enjoying Aisha? Often you get to say that,
very
is it?
bad. I popped out earlier because obviously we live in a basement making this. I popped out. It was terrible weather. Have you been outside today?
Maybe I'm the token woman.
I just had a mental image of that, and I'm hoping it's not true.
I think it's a storm. It's a minor storm. There's no weather in this country. A hurricane isn't really quite a hurricane as it would be in America. Maybe some people are losing things and you feel for them, but it's nothing like what happens in America. We're
being told to not sleep near windows, which seems like a really weird...
It's also a huge assumption. How big do they think everybody's places are? A lot of us can't not sleep near a window.
Yeah, the only way to not sleep near your windows is to be outside. Yeah. Well, let's get into your front pages. We'll start with the Daily Mail that goes with worst heart care crisis in memory. The front page of the Telegraph says BBC faces tougher scrutiny over bias. The Times says crisis for parents over free childcare. The Guardian goes with surge in modern slavery in social care sector since visa rules eased. iNews says water bosses behind toxic sewage will be put in dock under Labour. And the Daily Star, TV legend Brian Blessed, I wrestled a 48-ton gorilla. Stone, whatever, same thing. Those are your front pages. I'm hoping we get to the gorilla story at some stage, but let's begin with The Guardian. Cressida, what are they going with?
Surge in modern slavery in social care sector since visa rules eased. So The Guardian are saying that there are now 10 times more exploitation cases in the care sector than 2021. So That's bad, isn't it? We don't want people in the care sector to be exploited. I mean, it's bad if your delivery driver is being exploited. That's another area where it happens a lot. But if it's somebody looking after your much-loved relative, that is not good for either party. And it sounds like it's because there's been an increase in short-term visas, which, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Why would you be allowed a short-term visa for coming over to do that? We're going to need you for a long time. I don't quite understand the connection there. Thoughts?
Were you trafficked, Lewis?
In a way, I was. I mean, I was brought over here to do a job that no British person would do, which is marry that woman. But this, I mean, I saw this story, and I don't understand what modern slavery is. Slavery is a thing. Slavery is you are kept against your will and forced to do things. That's what slavery is. It seems like these people are are brought to this country, and there's no job for them, and they're basically, maybe their money was stolen, but they're not enslaved here. They're not being taken to a place and forced to work. So this is not, there's no slavery here. It's bad. People shouldn't be, you know, they shouldn't be lied to or have their money stolen. But
yeah, in some of the cases, they pay way over the odds for the admin of the visa, and then have to pay back that debt. So it's closer to indentured servitude, I think, where you owe the money back, isn't it?
It depends, because they could easily go to the police and say this is illegal. And I'm sure, I know the laws in this country is that if this happened, they would go to a tribunal and they would tell the guy, no, you don't have to pay the guy the money and you're free to go.
But they worry that their family are still back in the home country and they're worried about their safety. I mean, not my words, literally, that's what's in the article.
Yeah, I mean, these people don't feel that they're able to do that. They might not even know about citizens' advice.
Yeah, well, then they eventually do find out about it. I'm not saying it's
good.
Anyway,
the point is that the increase is supposed to be down to this change in visas. So that's the point that the article's making. It's not good.
Yeah, one way to get... We say, you know, there's some jobs that need filling. At least they found a way of doing it. Next up, to the Times, Lewis. What have they gone with?
Well, the Times have the big DeSantis story in America. I am an American still, even though I've been in this country so long that I've forgotten that I'm almost American. And I've gone native. Sort of, I call it diapers. Nappies. I call it nappies.
Why are you wearing nappies?
And the news is that Ron DeSantis, who was the great hope of people who hated the Biden and the Democrats but didn't like Trump very much, would supplant Trump. And the truth is that Trump is one of the greatest leaders. I don't think he's a great guy. Nobody thinks he's a great guy. But he has something that the people really like. The thing about DeSantis is he is a super competent man. He's not a normal person. He is a normal... He's not the average man.
I watched his Tucker Carlson interview and I thought, what a normal guy.
Yes.
That's exactly how I felt.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. He's a normal... But he's not an average guy. He's not the common man. And the thing about Donald Trump is he speaks for everybody who's been put upon by the man. And something about Ron DeSantis, and I like the guy a lot, but he would be the man. You can see him being the man prosecuting.
He looks like he's been put upon on the Guardian picture, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He looks like he's had enough.
Because he's a winner, and he's not winning this time. He hasn't won, and so he's a bit upset. He's an all right guy. Donald Trump, they are trying to destroy Donald Trump, and every single man in America, and a lot of the women too, they're taking Donald Trump's side. And the more they attack Donald Trump, the more the average person goes, go, Donald, go. Run, Donald, run.
So just to recap, you're happy that they've got rid of the person you described as competent, and you're happy that they're going with someone you described as not a good man, but he's got something.
I'm making the best of a bad situation. Okay. I don't think...
Positive.
Excellent. I don't think that Donald... I think... I would prefer to have had DeSantis, really. Competence.
Some people are saying the only person that can defeat Biden is Trump.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. But the only person who can get selected to run for president is Trump.
So some recent polls where others were doing better. Like,
but they cannot be put in that position.
Yeah, if Trump weren't to be the nominee, then Biden would be in a trickier situation. Nikki Haley would probably wipe the floor with him, but...
Well, with anybody.
OK, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that I saw him speak when I was 22 years old or 20 years old?
Did you interrupt him?
You know what I did? I actually did. Because I was sitting in the front row. Not even in the front row. I was a stunning, rebellious punk college student, and he picked on me because it's the way these politicians.
That's amazing.
They had punk in the 1940s.
And I thought, it was the 1970s, and I thought to myself, this is the most unctuous, phony human being I'd ever seen. And didn't even know who the guy was. He was a minor, young...
I heard what he said.
And he was... what he said about me.
What have the Telegraph gone with, Cressida?
The main story is BBC faces tougher scrutiny over bias. So that's about Ofcom taking over more of the BBC stuff. They're going to be more responsible for more of the online content. And they've also got this story, boarding schools let trans pupils pick dorms, which is extraordinary, isn't it? So this is Gillian Keegan is understood to be concerned by some school policies. I bet the parents are extremely concerned. You can't have teenage boys suddenly self-IDing as girls and running around in the girls' dorm, in my opinion, but also in the opinion of the government. It's not in the guidelines to do this. They're not safeguarding all the children. So this is pretty outrageous. Some people are paying £13,870 a term for this.
Well, those kids have to learn at an early age. They might as well learn at an early age that there are dangerous people hanging around.
I cannot believe you've said that.
Well, you got to make the best of a bad situation. If this government's going to let people do things like this, then if you're a parent, you should not send the kid to school like that. And number two...
Your argument is that if a wrong 'un comes along, if somebody who's a bad faith transgender girl comes along, they're just going to inoculate the other girls against...
No, I didn't say that. I said that the mothers and the fathers and the mothers...
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off topic.
Sorry. But the mothers and the fathers, they should say, young little Cressida, you're going to school at this very prestigious school paying £14,000. We're not paying £14,000 for you to be blanked by that guy who's wearing a dress. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying, please.
I bet there's a lot of Cressidas at school like that. It's got that kind of name, I reckon.
Oh, well, yeah. No, but we did school trips where we could have run around and tried to get into each other's dorms later, but no, that's not the kind of school.
Well, I remember when I was at school, when I was at uni...
We even broadcast this story? I'm a little worried. Let's move on. Let's the Daily Star, Lewis. This is the story we wanted to get to.
Well, they made our dorm by... whatever it is. Not bisexual. What is the term that's used? Co-ed.
Biannual?
Co-ed. They made it. So this was in the 1970s. That's how old I am. I look amazing. But in 1970s...
I heard rumour of a Daily Star.
I heard that TV legend Brian Blessed said, I wrestled a 48-stone gorilla, and the girl gorillas all fancied me. That's a very Lewis Schaefer way to end that story, isn't it? So, we don't have the full story, but that's...
Because there is no story. He didn't. Surely he didn't, otherwise he'd be...
Surely he didn't. He would be dead. 48 stone. For like, human beings who speak English, that's £700. So that's a lot of money. A lot of money. A lot of pounds.
Pounds. That's why we don't use pounds, because it gets confusing. Well, that's the front pages done. Bosh. In the next section, modern slavery and old-fashioned views on the Navy. See, we've got range. We'll see you there.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm still Stephen Allen, still here with down-to-earth Cressida Wetton and flat-earth Lewis Schaefer. To the independent Cressida, and it seems that Netanyahu would accept a two-state solution if both states were Israel.
That's exactly right. UK minister condemns Netanyahu's disappointing rejection of a Palestinian state. So Grant Shapps, he says Britain is wedded to the idea of a two-state solution. But I think all the Jewish people in Israel were wedded to their family members, weren't they, who got taken away from them. They probably... my point
Some
is...
were actually wedded, yeah.
Well, they were actually wedded, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's the UK giving its very strong opinion. And Netanyahu's not backing down, is he? When this all kicked off on the 7th of October, when the pogrom happened, he looked into the camera and he said, "This is war," and he clearly meant it, you know. And I guess his argument would be, what do you do about Hamas when their policy, their out in the open policy is, we're not going to stop doing this?
Yeah, well, he did say, you know...
I suppose the question is, can you really defeat Hamas? Because that's... If you can defeat Hamas, the two-state solution is possible.
Yeah. First of all, there can never be a two-state solution when the Palestinians are saying from the river to the sea. That's the answer. Right. From the river to the sea is no two-state solution. So why is it only the Jews that have a problem with this? The Jews actually offered a two-state solution under some previous prime minister, Olmert or something, back in the day. You know, and they've offered two-state solutions since the very beginning, which have been rejected. That's the fact. It is, and it is a war. The Palestinians are still... You got to give those Palestinians credit because they're fighting, even though the Palestinians are like the guy in Life of Brian, not Life of Brian. What's the other one? The Monty Python.
Yeah, that is quite a unique one.
Monty Python. You know, where the guy gets his arms cut off and he says, "Keep on coming at me."
Right.
Oh, it is, yeah, Holy Grail.
Holy Grail,
yeah,
right. Where they're fighting unbelievably bravely, the Palestinians. And they keep on fighting, and believe it or not, it's still a war. It's not like they're sitting there cowering. No, they're launching dozens and dozens of rockets every single day. They've launched thousands of rockets.
But there is a reason why the international community talks about a two-state solution, because it's the only model that you can have. If you've got both sides that think two-state solution is not possible, you're right, it is a war that only ends with the annihilation of one side.
No, no, it doesn't end with annihilation on one side. It ends with the Palestinians the remaining Palestinians not being happy in their little area. So it's not an annihilation.
But that's not an end, is it? Then it's just sowing more trouble for later. And the UK politicians, I mean, they're all saying the same thing on our side, the left and the right.
Yeah, which is wrong of them to say. The truth is, it's a war. It is a war, and what people forget is it's intractable. and there's no solution to it. So this guy, whatever his name is, Grant, they should just shut up.
Grant Shapps, one of his names.
Yeah.
The Telegraph, Lewis, and Penny Mordaunt is talking about our armed forces. Honestly, let her carry a sword for a little while, and all she wants to do is fight.
Yeah, I remember that, right? Penny Mordaunt, she raises fears over Navy failing to keep pace with Russia and China. And this is interesting, because anybody's been following the news, and you probably haven't been, but I've been following it. Russia has no Navy whatsoever. They are completely screwed on the naval front. Any ships that they have to be pulled out of the Black Sea because the Ukrainians are sending in drones. They're completely powerless with a Navy, okay, number one. And the Chinese people have, like, basically no Navy whatsoever. It can't go very far. So it sounds like we're all sitting there in fear of the Chinese and the Russians. It's so old school. The fact is that ships are totally passé, okay? They're not, especially when you're in a minor, small country like Britain. Sorry. It's Britain isn't Britain anymore. It's too small. Britain.
But she wants them to spend more money on the forces because they keep getting smaller. And we've been told, haven't we? It's all going to shrink by a third in next to no time.
Yeah.
Nobody's signing. We need ITV to make a drama about the military, don't we? So everyone cares about it. Make toxic masculinity great again. And then maybe we'll get some more interest. I don't know.
As someone who lives on the water, would you feel safer if we had a bigger Navy?
Yeah.
It's different kind of water,
Is it?
Steve.
I don't know these things.
I wouldn't like to get near any waves.
Right.
Or drones.
Are there any police that ply down the water?
Yeah.
Are there is there a canal police with guns and maybe a rocket launcher in the front of the boat?
Absolutely not. You're lucky if you can get hold of a fuel boat.
Don't know what that is, so we'll move on in case it's rude. The Guardian, Cressida, and there's talk of 99% mortgages being offered to borrowers. They'll never repay that. They're only tiny.
Minister's 99% mortgage idea could overheat UK housing market, says experts. Haven't we heard this before? So this scheme idea to support first-time buyers would appeal to young voters, and they're doing it before an election. What a surprise. So ministers could be at risk of fuelling a fresh house price bubble. So the problem is, if they lend more money, the cost of housing is just going to go up, right? It's like when you give out more, housing benefit, then all the landlords go, oh, we need to put the rent up. It's the same problem. As if house prices aren't high enough already. So it sounds appealing. They might reveal this idea in time for the spring budget in March. And the idea was you'd only have to have a 1% deposit, which is like, it's next to nothing.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna do the flip side of that. Is they're saying to young people, don't worry, we'll sort you out, we'll get you really in debt. You know that student loan that you've not paid off, we'll add to it 99% mortgage, not at the interest rates that we all paid. You'll have the new higher rate for 99% of the value of your property.
Right, and at the same time, Cressida was right, it's just going to raise the value of the houses. And that's what this country is all about. For the last, 20 years, it's all about, like, raising the value of housing. And when you give away these mortgages, it makes a bigger demand, and that's the single thing that hurts the propensity, that hurts the ability of young people to buy a house, is that the houses are too expensive. They should let the people they should let mortgage rates go as high as they can, and people will be bankrupt and they'll be forced to sell their house.
Free up some properties.
Yes, it would free up property. The properties would drop in value, and then people would be able... I mean, this would destroy...
repossession.
Yeah. This would destroy me. It would... You know.
I mean, this is the thing. Even I fall. I understand that it's not your worth. It doesn't matter what your property's what it's worth. It's not money you can spend unless you want to downsize to a cardboard box, because the next place you're going to buy will have gone up by the same amount. But we all feel richer knowing, like, oh, look how much I've got in property. And we fall for it, and no one wants to vote for the party that's going to say, actually, we're going to make you worth less on paper.
You are right, but people actually do become richer. Lewis Schaefer became richer because I was able to maintain my place in the flat in Nunhead while it increased in value because the government lowered the mortgage rates to nothing, to nothing. They gave me free money for 10 years.
Terrible idea.
You know what it is? God bless those people for doing it, but they gave it to a 67-year-old guy. And that's why young people can't get a house because of Lewis Schaefer.
the Daily Mail, Lewis. And should we ban people in masks? And before you answer, it would make that singing TV show mercifully shorter.
I don't know what show you're talking about. I kind of have a vague idea. I don't watch the TV, but
It's got the word singing in it and mask. So put that
Is
together.
the Masked Singer?
Yay!
Is that what it's called? I don't know. I don't watch TV. Nobody watches TV. Nobody's watching this. They're going to be watching this on the internet later. Will Britain's protest menaces finally be unmasked? New laws must give police powers to ban face covering at rallies. This is what a review said. This is a review that was done by this guy, John Woodcock, and he handed it over to Under 10. And he said, basically, if the police say to people at a rally, you've got to take your mask off, they have to take their mask off.
Well, even they might even make that a condition of protest.
Yes, and so this is the change they want to make. They want to say, hey, you want to have a protest, you have to take. Well, are people forced to show their faces
Well, not currently.
or not?
That's the problem. So they can go and do bad things.
But the police force them when they're there. Should the police force people?
Yeah, they've already got the power to say you're covering your face with that mask, take it off, you're in disguise. But they can't say, no one's allowed mask. It's basically just making it easier for the police to not have to turn up to people and say...
And ask people a question. Yeah.
I don't know. Does this sit well with you?
Does it feel a bit like they're overreaching somewhat?
I always get a bit nervous when the government decides to take a right away.
Show your face, then you have to wear a mask. If I had to pick a side, I did not appreciate having my face covered up a few years ago. Appreciate you could argue it's exactly the same problem. The state deciding what my face does.
Yeah, and, you know, I've never done the eyes wide shut thing, but that involves a mask. And would I be able to travel to the event? These are the big issues, aren't they?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think people should be allowed to protest with a mask on. If they do something illegal, not even illegal, if they do something that's wrong, then they should be arrested and be forced to take their mask off. But if they want to turn up to a place, if they want to walk down a street with a mask, I think I'm not sure about this.
Well, we're at the halfway point in the next section. Upset at the proms, and will the general election be all about undecided women, which I think is the new term for pre-op? We'll find out next.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Headliners, to the very absorbent Telegraph, Lewis. And the right wing go on about leftists, globalists, and now cellists.
Cellists, which is cultural appropriation. Oh, so this guy is a guy, Sheku. His story is don't play Rule Britannia at the prom. Say the cellist of Prince Harry and Meghan. So the cellist is named Sheku Kana Mason, and his claim to fame is he was Prince Harry's cellist at their wedding. And this guy is one of those typical people. He's complaining that he's basically anti-British, and he thinks that Rule Britannia is what do you call that? Makes him feel uncomfortable. Didn't say exactly. I mean, so he's 24 years old, and he's speaking on Desert Island Disc, and he's like one of the top cellists in the world.
God, doesn't he sound awful?
Yeah.
Imagine being that famous at 19, becoming a household name for playing the cello for the Royals, and then at 20, what did you say, 25?
24.
Somebody sticks a microphone in your face on the BBC and says, give us your opinions, and they're frozen on the internet forever.
Do you know what? You're so unsympathetic, because this guy has faced a life of racism and prejudice. A lifetime.
Isn't that what he says down here?
Yeah.
He says that, where does he say it? He says, so he's because he's in classical music, he's saying that that's not typically a black person's sphere to operate in. He says, most of the time it was fine, in the sense I felt comfortable and all good, but there were certainly occasions where my being black meant that I wasn't necessarily taken seriously in some situations. How could you know that? I would love to hear his evidence for that it was his blackness that made him not be taken seriously.
You wouldn't know that. But then again, he maybe wasn't taken seriously. Maybe people were thinking, hey, he's a... he's here as a DEI.
Well, that's possible, I guess.
But the actual issue about having the lyrics on Rule Britannia, it mentions slavery. Then again, we've had 3 stories tonight that mention slavery. But
yeah,
I mean, there was BBC had a plan to have it without the words. I must admit, as a working class...
We've got to the point where we're having sensitivity readers for the national anthem. How do we feel about that?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good thing.
But where is slavery mentioned in the song? The line is, if I know it, Britain shall never be slaves. It's not like we're saying, we're gung-ho slavery, we're going to Africa to get some slaves. It's not saying that. It's saying slavery is bad. Is that a good point?
Agreed.
That's a damn good point. Tweet it.
Lewis Schaefer made a good point. We have clocked... It's 33 minutes past 11 on the 21st of January.
I've had a rough start. I was fighting with Cressida before. It was like a family battle.
I wasn't involved. I was being fought at, but
no, you weren't.
Here we find ourselves.
You brought it on yourself, Cressida.
I can see you've healed that wound. To the independent Cressida, undecided women voters could determine the election. You got the vote in 1928. What are you still taking so long about?
The undecided women voters who could determine the next general election result. So apparently, only 11% of men say they're undecided at this point, whereas a quarter of women are still making up their mind. Yeah. So the article is sort of saying, the politicians should be thinking more about what the women are saying, because at this point, the guys are fixed. They're a done deal. They can't change their minds. So you should look at childcare and the NHS, because those are the things that ladies like and care about.
Yeah.
Some of it's written in the style of a sort of 1940s public information video. That's sort of how
you there?
Yes, exactly. It is a misrepresentation to believe that women vote as a bloc. Ultimately, 52% of the population are women, so to think that they will vote homogeneously is not the case. So a bit of advice for you there. Women can be diverse.
Yeah, it's also that twice as many women are undecided, and that's like typical. It's really hard to get a woman to make up her mind.
Is that the bit you were going for?
It was. It's not as funny as I thought it was going to be.
The lines because they're still doing their hair.
It's neither funny or that offensive. It's just hack. So I want to apologise to everyone out there.
Do you not think the best way to be in an election is undecided? Because no one cares about you. If you've nailed your colours to the mast, no one's come in to get you. But if you're all, well, this is where I am.
Well, are you saying?
See what the colours are.
Are you saying that people are going to come knock out? Mrs. McGillicuddy, I heard you're undecided. If no one notices, there's no undecided voters.
There should have been a carry-on film called Carry On Deciding, and they could have all been, I don't know.
Sid James trying to get into office. Whoa, as someone walks past. There's something about rosettes. It's all there. The Daily Mail, Lewis, a teacher banned for misgendering a pupil, will use new guidance. Or scoutance. Come on.
Yeah. What's scoutance?
Guides.
Oh, scout. Oh, okay. I didn't understand it. What am I supposed to pretend like I know what you're talking about if I don't know what you're talking about?
When I pause, you know the beat at the end of when I talk.
And I should pretend. It was funny. It was funny.
Thank you.
The problem with you, Steve, is you're too smart for me. Anyway, teacher who was banned for teaching. She was banned for teaching. He was banned for teaching.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Well, we don't know. Maybe he doesn't even know himself if he's a man or a woman. For misgendering a female pupil who identified as a boy. So it was a girl. He wants to use the government's new transgender guidance for a school's appeal decision. So this happened 6 or 7 years ago, and he lost his job. And then the government just came in and said you're not allowed to do that. So this dude, his name is Joshua Sutliff at the Sherwood School in Oxford. He says I'm going to use this new guidance to appeal. And maybe I can win and get some money back retroactively, which I'm not sure of. So it's been 7 years.
But he can, at the very least, not be banned from teaching anymore, which, by the way, he was banned for going into a lesson and saying, "Well done, girls."
Right.
That's what he was banned
That's what
for.
he did.
What?
And this is because I don't have many friends, and you'll find out why when I explain this. The thing that really bothers me about this story is that through the whole thing, they say using the wrong pronouns, it's all about selected preferred pronouns. He apologised for using the wrong pronouns. He said, "Congratulations, well done, girls."
Yeah.
Girls is not a pronoun. Ooh.
No, that's so right. See, I told you how smart this Steve is. It's an honour to work with him.
But finally, we've got this guidance. And going back to our front cover story on The Telegraph about that school letting kids go in each other's doors.
Yeah.
It's not looking good for them, is it? I'm amazed people are still doing this after the Cass report. Like, we're getting there now, aren't we? The duty is safeguarding before...
And people who are teachers, I don't think it's great to be a teacher. It sounds like a horrible job, but those people who like teaching, and there are a few who do, love teaching, and to tell this guy you can't be a teacher, Prime and Miss Jean... Which is the one? Prime and Miss Jean Brodie. And she lost her job. And I just remember when I saw that many years ago, and she was so sad that she had lost her job as a teacher.
But in that film, she's a fascist. She's promoting Mussolini and all these crazy ideas. And eventually she convinces one of the girls to go off to war, and she gets killed. And it's really interesting for today.
But why did
She's an activist teacher.
But why did she lose her job?
Because she was an activist teacher. Things have flipped. It used to be that if you were the crazy outsider, you'd get fired. And nowadays you get fired if you're conservative.
Oh, interesting.
It's a great film.
But was I right about the feeling that Miss Jean Brodie felt when she was fired from her job?
Well,
and she
facts
loved...
don't care about your feelings, Lewis.
Yeah, well, I sensed it.
The Express, Cressida, and a worrying story about online porn addiction. It's not a funny one, this one. I've suffered it myself. And that's why I'm not allowed back in that internet cafe.
Nice. Around 2/3 of youngsters addicted to online pornography. 2/3. This article is claiming that a quarter of 16 to 21-year-olds first accessed pornography while they were at primary school. Primary school, you're too young. No, absolutely. Unless you're like walking your dog and you accidentally see a magazine in a bush. But it should be traumatic. It shouldn't be a choice that they make.
Well, what year is a primary school in this country?
Up to 11, you leave. So they're kids, little kids.
Well, because that's the way it is now.
Well,
this is the internet.
So anyway,
How old were you?
Under 18s, the level of addiction is at 60%. And there's this guy who's 27 now, he's in recovery. He said, "I'd lost all control over my behaviour. I was sitting in my room, smoking weed and watching porn videos from morning to night. I cannot even articulate how disgusting and ashamed I felt."
Isn't
that sad?
Can't articulate
It is
a lot, I
sad.
imagine. Barely move.
Can I tell you something? You're so naive. Number one, kids today have access to this. I don't think it's good, but it doesn't matter when a man sees porn. It's very addictive. It's similar to sugar. very bad. It's similar to pasta and bread, very addictive. So you're making it seem like there's something that can be done about this. It's just so unbelievably addictive.
It's not quite like pasta, unless we've seen some very different porn.
It is like sugar.
Saucy would be the word you could use to describe both.
Whatever your favorite food is, it's like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Nobody sits there and just takes one little teaspoon of Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, but you can eat that at the dinner table in front of your mother, can't you? You can't... it's not as shameful.
You know what? You can... Well, let's not explain how to do it. The Guardian, Lewis, FIFA wants forfeits for teams that have racist fans. So, if you've got a local rivalry, just buy the kit, go along, do some Chubby Brown material. Next thing, your team's winning.
Yeah, I won't go along with that because I don't know about Chubby Brown. I probably support him. But this is in Sheffield, and FIFA, which is the federation of IFAs.
Is that Storm we're currently saying?
I think it's the Federation International Football Associations, right? It's international, it's not the European one. Demands forfeit for teams with racist fans after abhorrent incidents. And there was an incident in Sheffield where they were playing Udinese, which I think is an Italian team, where they were accused of making monkey sounds, the Sheffield fans, but that could have just been the Sheffield people talking. I mean, they've got very weird accent, number one. Is that funny? Is that funny? No, I love Sheffield. I love Sheffield Wednesday because they only play on one day a week, which is why they never progress, because they take the rest of the week off.
Plays on Saturday.
But the thing about it is so the Sheffield have been accused of being racist, and I thought to myself, the way we solve this is to insist that Sheffield have black and minority members on the team.
No, that's not going to help, because what they're saying is they're implying that there's a problem of racism in football. Like, you're showing that
you don't know about football.
I'm showing that I don't know about football.
Yeah.
Lewis, I promise you I don't know about football.
Yeah, what my joke was...
What I was surprised about in here is how much racism is going on. I was very surprised, because don't you just think nowadays it's not cool? I thought that racism was like the worst thing you could do. It's the worst thing you could be accused of. The idea of making monkey noises at a player of a different race...
What makes
I'm just stunned.
No.
But it's a good idea. At first I thought, you can't punish the team, you can't make the team responsible for their fans' behaviour, but then I realised, no, really, they are punishing the fans, aren't they? Because they want to win.
Yeah,
they
but
take points away from them.
That's believing if racism actually exists. And the reason I made my little joke there, which was not received very well by you, the fact is that Sheffield has had many black players on their team, and they have black players on their team today.
Isn't their kit black and white? I mean, honestly, if there's a football team, that is an example.
Oh, yeah, it is. They're called the Owls, right? Or is that... No, the Blades.
Magpies.
The Blades.
Let's watch three people who know nothing about football have a really good guess at it.
But my point is they're not being racist, the Sheffield people, because they got their own team has, like, black people on it.
Notts County. That's a strip that used to be black and white. Final section coming up. Young people aren't drinking so much, but they are having their mirrors removed from their bathrooms, which makes me think that they're into something a bit stronger. We'll find out more next.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country.
only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. To the Daily Mail, Cressida and Gen Z aren't drinking because they're worried about making embarrassing mistakes. As a Gen Xer, I should point out that some of our drunken mistakes are these Gen Z kids.
Nice. Why hangxiety is forcing Gen Z to ditch the booze, as experts claim young people experience heightened feelings of stress and anxiety after heavy drinking. That's what happens after heavy drinking. That's just the rules of the universe. You go up and you come down. My friend Lauren used to call it a sad over instead of a
sad over?
Yeah, because you feel a bit kind of, you know, and if you've done something embarrassing, doubly so.
Yeah.
Now you've got a real reason to be depressed. So apparently 1 in 5 18 to 24-year-olds are teetotal. 20%.
Okay, I'm going to make 2 points. The first point is that alcohol. The reason why when you're older you don't get a hangover because you deserve to drink. You need to drink.
Mine are getting
Whereas
worse.
a lot of these young people, they don't work a hard day's work, so they don't have the need to go and get totally drunk.
Chris is right, it's the other way around. When I was 18, you go out drinking, a hangover is like half a morning of feeling rough and just eating McDonald's.
And you had to earn that.
Yeah.
Like, you really had
Whereas
to put the
now,
work
a
in.
hangover now, I'm begging for dignitas. So it seems to have got worse.
Yeah, okay, I take back what I said. I take back what I said. So you're saying that when you're young, you're saying you should be able to handle drinking.
Well, they're also saying
more.
they've got more social media than we had, and that's true, right? I'm delighted that nobody was recording my thoughts and ideas, you know, when I was 18 to 24. That was great. And these people are worried it's going to be frozen in time, so that's fair. They don't want any videos of them emerging.
Right, okay, there you go. I didn't read the story.
That's a mental image.
No, that's true. That was very good.
To the Daily Mail, Lewis, a school has removed mirrors from the kids' bathrooms because they were making TikToks.
Yeah.
That's not what I thought they meant by live streaming.
Okay. North Carolina Middle School, this is the Daily Mail, removes mirrors after students kept cutting classes to go and film TikTok videos. And this is taking place in the Alamance Burlington school system. And I actually had to look that up because I'm thinking, where the hell is this? I don't know where it is. And it's actually between Greensboro and Durham, North Carolina, on the Route 85 corridor. That's in between. It's on the way to Durham and Raleigh and Chapel Hill.
Oh, Chapel Hill.
Yeah, so it's probably a fantastic place to live. I think it's booming.
I'm surprised this worked.
Chapel Hill's where the university is. Sorry about that.
No, I thought I'd interject. I don't know why I thought I'd get away with it. I've learned nothing.
You researched the story, but not the story.
No, don't read the
Google
story.
Maps
Because the story is right there. They got kids going to the bathroom.
Take away the mirrors at GB News. Will you stop making videos of yourself?
I'd bring my own mirror in.
Exactly.
I'd bring it all in.
I'm surprised this
Yeah.
stopped the kids. Like, they can bring their own mirrors. They can hold the phone for each other. You make us hold the phone for you all the time.
Right, exactly. I didn't ask you today because you were grumpy and angry at me.
Oh, my goodness.
And angry at me. I was having a strop. But yeah, so this is a non-story. It's not a real story. Why are you taking it seriously, Cressida?
Then we'll crack on to the Telegraph, Cressida, and there's a plan to cull Italian bears. Hairy, primal, they don't take no for an answer. Italians are people from Italy.
I'm all in favour of culling things. Plan to cull Italian bears sparks terrorism accusation, which I disagree. I don't think bears can have, like, the abstract concept of terror. Surely terrorism only works if you can threaten something and then the person or the thing being terrorised. Anyway...
No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around.
The bears are committing terrorism.
No, they said the Italians were being terrorists.
No, yes, but I'm arguing the point. I'm saying you can't be a terrorist to a bear. Some bears hurt and killed some joggers.
They said that the Italians, by trying to kill these people, was a terrorist attack on bears.
Yeah, and I'm saying that doesn't work because it doesn't matter. So there's an argument about whether or not culling bears is a terrorist attack.
On bears.
I'm interested in the fact this is in the Trentino province. Whereabouts is that exactly?
That's in the north. That's in the north.
Name towns that it's near?
I would say it's north of Padua, maybe. It's right between the mountains and the Alps, right in the base of the Dolomites, perhaps. I'm just guessing. I should have looked it up.
No, you shouldn't.
Is that what you're doing? You're making a joke about because I looked up where this town, Alamance.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I thought everybody knew where the Trent was, or it's on the other side.
Daily Mail, Lewis, and there's a new expensive cat collar that can warn birds that they're going to attack. That rings a bell.
Yeah.
Bells.
Well, this shows us a guy's got too much time on his hand. Designer invents a collar that alerts prey when cat is about to pounce and could save the lives of 55 million birds killed by pets each year. I love cats, but they're murderers. They're absolutely horrible. But I love cats. I've got a cat myself, my cat Phoebe. But so this guy who's 82 years old, and he didn't want to put his cat worked around the bell, as you mentioned, so the cat was able to kill birds without alerting the bird, so he invented this thing. This took place at the Railway Tavern in Norwich, in Norfolk, in Durham.
Is that somewhere near, I'd say, King's Lynn, just down from
Anyway,
King's
they've made a new type of collar that can sense when the cat is about to pounce.
Yeah.
And when that happens, this thing lets the birds know that the cat's getting in, pouncing. I think the cats are going to work around the collars just like they did the bells. I think cats are clever enough to do that.
I think it's going to make the cats insane.
But isn't it the birds' stupid fault, if I can be so harsh? Because cats, before they pounce, do the little...
Make them wiggle their bottom.
They wiggle their bums. Just learn. Come on, evolution. Work out. When you see a cat doing that, I don't go anywhere near a cat because...
You don't know how many birds didn't get killed today. Think of all the birds that got away and just a few, it's natural selection, Steve.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Probably not.
I found you shaking your bum very...
Well, on that, we shall move on. It's a private video. It's available on Cameo, but the show's nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail. Worst heart care crisis in memory. The Telegraph goes with BBC faces tougher scrutiny over bias. The Times goes with crisis for parents over free childcare. The Guardian, surge in modern slavery in social care sector since visa rules eased. The Daily Star goes with TV legend Brian Blessed, I wrestled a 48-stone gorilla. And that's your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to my guests, Cressida Wetton and Lewis Schaefer. We are back tomorrow at 11 p.m, where I'll return with Andrew Doyle and Nick Dixon. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Have a good one.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. Storm Isha will bring some very heavy rain and some strong winds across the UK overnight tonight and into Monday morning. It pushes its way north and eastwards across western parts of Scotland this evening, bringing some very heavy rain, particularly to those western parts of the UK. That rain will continue to push its way north and eastwards through the evening and overnight, and it's through the early hours of Monday morning that those winds really start to pick up. Gusts of 60 to 75 miles an hour across those those western coasts, perhaps as high as 90 across parts of Scotland. It will be a very mild night as well, particularly compared to what we've seen recently, maybe 8 or 9 degrees across the southeast. A very windy start to the day on Monday, though. Those winds will ease a touch through the early hours of the morning, but still remaining very blustery across the UK into Monday afternoon. Showers quite widely pushing in from the west into Monday afternoon as well, perhaps turning wintry across the very high ground of Scotland. There will be some sunshine across the very far southeast. Temperatures here maybe 10 or 11 degrees, and elsewhere around the mid-single figures. Tuesday will start a little bit drier for some, particularly along eastern parts of England, but that doesn't last very long. This next system pushing in from the west as we go through Tuesday afternoon, bringing some further heavy rain, particularly to western parts of Scotland, northwest England and into Wales as well, and some strong winds associated with that. Something a little drier on Wednesday, but further wet and windy weather later in the week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.